China has a lot of skeletons in its closet, and it does not want you looking at this one. Welcome to China Uncensored, I'm Chris Chappell. And I have some exciting news. We're at nearly 2 million subscribers, only about 40,000 to go. So if you're watching and you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button now. When we get to 2 million, we'll do a special live stream for you, where we'll do something we've never done before. So again, hit that subscribe button. Now, on with the show. The Chinese Communist Party is a totalitarian regime that won't blink an eye at crushing anyone it perceives as a threat. And today, July 20th, 2024, marks a very special reminder of that. It's the 25th anniversary of the CCP's persecution of Falun Gong. Of course, for 25th anniversaries, the traditional gift is silver. And I'd like to see some of those CCP thugs celebrate by being carted off in these gorgeous silver handcuffs. Falun Gong, sometimes called Falun Dafa, is a type of Qigong, a bit like Tai Chi. Falun Gong is slow exercises and meditation, but there's also a spiritual component based on living your life by the principles of truth, compassion, and tolerance. It became super popular in China in the 1990s, and it was even featured positively in Chinese state-run media for its reported health benefits.
If you took a walk in the park this morning, you can see that the recent hard work the government has put into public health activities has not been wasted. Every morning starting from 5 to 6 a.m., the city's green grass, parks and public squares become a morning exercise heaven.
Wow! Should I be surprised that the CCP took credit for Falun Gong's health benefits? The closest thing Communist China came to offering their citizens a health benefit was helping them lose weight. Like, a lot of weight. You're welcome? But by the late 90s, the Chinese leader at the time, Jiang Zemin, started to see Falun Gong as a threat. After all, Falun Gong had a source of spiritual fulfillment and a guide for how to live their best lives other than communism. And communism can offer that fine on its own, thank you very much. I mean, what says I'm spiritually fulfilled more than seeing other people prospering and thinking I must destroy them? And so the CCP started cracking down on Falun Gong. They started arresting them, hauling them away, detaining them indefinitely, and eventually moved on to killing them for their organs. Chinese state-run media, of course, did a complete 180.
The People's Daily reports that Falun Gong is an evil cult. Falun Dafa is an illegal organization, and the decision is to outlaw it.
The Chinese Communist Party calling anyone an evil cult while killing them for their organs is like Dracula calling someone a blood-sucking fiend. I'd ask him to take a look in the mirror, but, you know, Dracula. And for a quarter century, the Communist Party has never stopped repressing Falun Gong. Chinese government directives, work reports, and development plans issued by local officials continue to make references to Falun Gong when it comes to safeguarding national security, political security, national political security, and state security. Because nothing makes communists feel more insecure than people being healthy and happy without them, the horror. China says security so much that at this point, I don't even know what doesn't count as security. Even as recently as 2023, China's Ministry of Public Security, there it is again, pushed for cracking down on Falun Gong in press conferences, because the only exercise China is comfortable with are their own military exercises near Taiwan. Also in 2023, China launched a nationwide anti-Falun Gong campaign that tried to get millions of people to sign a petition against Falun Gong and other banned religious groups on the China Anti-Cult Association website. It's for their own good, you see. You wouldn't want a centralized form of power controlling every aspect of people's lives and oppressing them now, would you? That sort of thing would never happen under communism. China has since expanded the signature campaign program to cover rural villages and ethnic minority regions. Meanwhile, one kindergarten even forced parents to sign a pledge titled Wenzhou Kindergarten's Family Commitment to Non-Belief, stating that they would not practice or share with their children religion of any kind, but especially Falun Gong. But persecuting Falun Gong practitioners in China wasn't enough. The Chinese Communist Party has gone after them internationally as well. Back in December 2015, then Public Security Chief Meng Jianzhu noted the urgent need to treat the countries and regions with serious Falun Gong activities, such as the United States, as the main battlefield. Thankfully, that's the only way China sees the US as a battlefield, right? Right? Leaked documents show that there have been Chinese efforts to conduct in-depth investigations of overseas Falun Gong and collect intelligence about them. This includes gathering extensive personal and biographical details, as well as information about relatives remaining in China and orders to establish databases with these details. And you probably know that Falun Gong started Shenyun, the Chinese cultural dance shows. Their tagline is China before communism. Well, CCP can't allow that to happen in free democratic countries. So the CCP uses its embassies to try and coerce prominent venues in major world cities not to host Shenyun performances. Trying to ban dancing worldwide? Yes, Communist China is basically the bad guys from Footloose at this point. I'm not sure if we should be saved by democracy or Kevin Bacon. And the CCP has even tried to bribe US officials to revoke Shenyun's tax-exempt status. But there's one thing that China absolutely hates about Falun Gong: the way it exposes the CCP's organ harvesting scheme. Because saying, hey, can you please stop killing us and taking our organs, completely unacceptable. Plenty of evidence shows that China is intentionally harvesting organs from prisoners of conscience. It started with killing the Uyghurs in the 1990s. Then they switched to Falun Gong for a couple of decades. This has all been documented in books like The Slaughter by Ethan Gutmann and by the independent China Tribunal. But the problem was the CCP started to run out of Falun Gong people to harvest organs from, so they switched back to Uyghurs. Who will the CCP use for organ harvesting next? I don't know, but you might not want to go to China right now, especially if you're full of plump, delicious, juicy organ meat. Of course, the CCP tries to hide the fact that they're killing people so they can sell their organs. My favorite Chinese state-run media, the Global Times, tries to dismiss accusations of organ harvesting as just flimsy nonsense, brags about China allegedly becoming more transparent with its organ donations, and claims that millions of people have reportedly volunteered to donate their organs. Meanwhile, aside from pumping out propaganda, China silences talk in the West about forced organ harvesting. Sometimes Chinese government officials get directly involved and complain to politicians, or even make threats asking questions like, "Are you afraid of death?" Which is exactly the type of totally not creepy thing to ask when you're trying to convince people you're not a body part snatching ghoul. But despite the CCP's threats, there are lots of pesky people around the world who keep exposing China's forced organ harvesting with their annoying documentaries and YouTube videos. Whoever made these videos, good job. We've got to keep a lot of eyes on the subject, at least before the CCP harvests those too. Despite China's efforts to silence conversations, more and more people are speaking out against China's forced organ harvesting. Even politicians are speaking out against it. They're even actually doing something to help. Back in January, the European Parliament adopted an EU resolution acknowledging and condemning the CCP's organ harvesting and its persecution of Falun Gong. And in the US, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson publicly warned about China's organ harvesting. And just last month, the US House of Representatives unanimously passed a bill called the Falun Gong Protection Act. It specifically targets the CCP's persecution and forced organ harvesting of Falun Gong practitioners, which is monumental because US politicians can't unanimously agree on anything. If you say it's hot outside, they'll argue whether or not the temperature is just another form of inflation. The bill would require the US president to impose visa and property blocking sanctions on foreign persons that are knowingly responsible for, are complicit in, or have engaged in the involuntary harvesting of organs in China. This is important. It penalizes the Chinese Communist Party for what it's done and continues to do against Falun Gong practitioners and others. It also shows the US government acknowledges that organ harvesting is real, which is a big deal given how hard the CCP is trying to cover it up. And on this 25th anniversary of the persecution of Falun Gong in China, that's something worth celebrating. If only we could give CCP officials the appropriate anniversary gift. Now, the CCP hates it when I point out China's religious persecution and organ harvesting. That's among the many reasons Chinese state-run media has called China Uncensored disgraceful anti-China garbage. But I need your help to keep making this disgraceful garbage, so join what I call the China Uncensored 50-cent army on Patreon. As a thank you to everyone who gives on Patreon, I'll respond to one of your questions or comments at the end of these episodes. Today's comes from Mervin. Censorship is immoral. After the CCP collapses, will the world see what are all of the messed up, hidden secret, and evil history China has revealed and what it has learned? That's a great question for this episode, Mervyn. So, when the Soviet Union collapsed, the Soviet archives were made public and revealed a ton of things that were secretly going on behind the scenes. For example, funding of front groups in the US, the number of spies the Stasi had in East Berlin. And when the CCP collapses, I'm sure there will be something similar. It won't just be the true scope of organ harvesting that will be revealed. If the Chinese Communist Party is willing to kill people for their organs, just imagine what else is going on behind the scenes that we have no idea about. Thank you for your question and your support, Mervyn. And thank you for watching. Join us on Patreon by clicking that orange button. And here's a video I want to show you. War is hell. And when it comes to civilians caught up in it, the moral lines between good and survival break down. That's the lesson of the game, This War of Mine, where the choices you make about your band of survivors gets personal. Click here and let me know what you think. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.